Hey everyone, Dr. Chem here, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are embarking on a cinematic educational lecture diving into one of the absolute most fascinating, universally present mathematical phenomena in the entire universe. We're talking about the normal distribution. Now, whether you realize it or not, there's this invisible mathematical force constantly shaping our reality, taking the sheer chaos of the natural world and organizing it into this beautifully predictable structure.
Have you ever just looked around and wondered, why do so many completely unrelated things tend to cluster right around an average? I mean, why isn't everything in life just totally, completely random? Whether we're looking at biology, human behavior, or even the machines we build, extreme outliers are actually incredibly rare, while the middle or the average is overwhelmingly common. So what is this invisible hand that's guiding all this data?
Think about adult men's heights, or SAT math scores, IQ scores, systolic blood pressure, even microscopic errors in machine manufacturing. Seriously, what do genetics, standardized testing, cardiology, and factory robotics actually have in common? Well, they all magically follow the exact same mathematical pattern. When you measure them, they form the exact same shape. It's kind of mind-blowing when you realize the universe actually has a preferred template for probability.
All right, so here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the famous bell curve, break down the mean and standard deviation, explore the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, standardize our data with z-scores, and finally calculate some real-world probabilities. Let's dive in.
Section 1. The famous bell curve, driven by the central limit theorem. To really understand why the world isn't just pure chaos, we have to look at the central limit theorem. This basically tells us that whenever a value is the result of a ton of small, independent, random factors adding together, the final result naturally produces a bell shape. Think about human height, right? It's not just one single gene deciding it. It's influenced by hundreds of genetic markers plus your nutrition, plus your environment. Or think about a machine cutting metal. Tiny vibrations, temperature shifts, microscopic friction, it all adds up. The central limit theorem dictates that the sum of all these minor, random effects will always smooth out into this perfectly predictable curve.
Moving right along to Section 2, mean and standard deviation. Let's look at the anatomy of this curve.
So every normal curve is basically controlled by two mathematical levers. The first lever is the mean, which we represent with the Greek letter mu. You can think of this as the exact center of gravity for our dataset. It is the absolute peak of our mountain. And what's truly elegant about a perfect normal distribution is that the mean is exactly equal to the median, the middle value, and the mode, which is the most frequent value. Everything balances perfectly right at this central point.
The second lever is the standard deviation, represented by the Greek letter sigma. If the mean tells us where the center is, the standard deviation acts as the stretch. It tells us exactly how widely the data is dispersed away from that center. A small standard deviation? That means your data is tightly clustered right around the mean, like a sharp spike. A large standard deviation means the data is stretched way out, giving you a much flatter, wider bell.
When you visualize this, you get this continuous density function that peaks perfectly at the mean and then smoothly tapers off in both directions. It's perfectly symmetrical. It stretches infinitely to the left and infinitely to the right, getting closer and closer to that horizontal axis, but never quite touching it. It's elegantly accounting for even the most impossibly rare extreme outliers out there.
All right, Section 3, the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, which is often called the empirical rule.
This rule is honestly an amazing practical shortcut to predict distributions without doing complex calculus. Here's the first part, 68%. In any normal distribution, roughly 68% of all your data values are going to comfortably fall within just one standard deviation of the mean, both positive and negative. That means the vast majority of your population, your test scores, your manufactured parts, or heck, even the timing of your Friday night pizza delivery live right next door to the average. Now, let's pull back to the next layer and zoom out slightly. If we step out two standard deviations from the mean in both directions, we capture approximately 95% of the data. If you have a data point that falls outside of this two standard deviation window, you're looking at something in the top or bottom 2.5%. At that point, it's starting to get pretty exceptional.
And finally, we reach 99.7%. A massive 99.7% of all data exists within 3 standard deviations of the mean. This encompasses almost every single possibility in a dataset. If you find a data point beyond 3 standard deviations, wow, you have found a true statistical anomaly.
an extreme outlier that represents less than 1/3% of the total population.
Mapping these exact percentages out shows how they perfectly stack up into these distinct, totally predictable bands across our data. You can really see that the bulk of the area is squarely in the middle, and as we move to the left or the right, those bands of probability just get narrower and narrower into the tapering tails. It perfectly visualizes exactly what we were just talking about.
Okay, Section 4, Standardizing using z-scores. So how do you compare completely unrelated things, like apples and oranges, or two entirely different standardized tests? We use the ultimate statistical equalizer, the z-score formula. Instead of talking in inches or exam points or millimeters, a z-score translates any raw value into a universal language. It tells us exactly how many standard deviations a specific data point is away from the mean.
The actual calculation process is super straightforward. First, you calculate the mean of your sample. Second, you subtract that mean from your specific data point, which we just call x. This gives you the raw distance from the center. Finally, you divide that difference by the standard deviation, and that division right there is what converts your raw distance into standardized units.
Let's see how this builds a really powerful tool for comparison. Imagine Zoe took the ACT and scored a 25. Mike took the SAT and scored an 1150. These are two completely different standardized tests with totally different scoring scales. So who actually did better relative to their peers? Well, by converting Zoe's score into a z-score based on ACT averages and Mike's score into a z-score based on SAT averages, we completely strip away the different scales. And the math actually proves that Zoe has the higher z-score, meaning she objectively performed better compared to the rest of the test takers than Mike did.
And that brings us to Section 5, calculating probabilities using the standard normal.
Now that we have our z-scores in hand, we can unlock real-world probabilities. By looking up your z-score in a standard normal table, you can find your cumulative probability. Essentially, it finds the shaded area representing the exact proportion of the total population that falls to the left of your specific value. Put simply, it tells you exactly how much of the bell curve is filled up below your specific mark.
Bringing our previous example home, let's look at Mike again. If we calculate his SAT z-score, and then we look that z-score up in our standard normal table, we find a value of 0.8413. This translates beautifully into a real-world fact. 84.13% of all test takers scored lower than Mike. He is sitting precisely in the 84th percentile. With just the mean, the standard deviation, and a z-table, we can find out exactly how common or rare any event really is.
Well, that wraps up our cinematic educational lecture for today. We've seen how the central limit theorem brings total order to chaos, how the mean and standard deviation shape the curve, and exactly how z-scores let us navigate it all. So my final question for you is this. Now that you're armed with the hidden math behind the bell curve, where are you going to spot the normal distribution in your daily life? Are you going to see it in the sizes of shoes at the store, the varying weights of apples at the farmer's market, or maybe the timing of your morning commute? The universe is constantly clustering around the average. You just have to know how to look for it. Keep exploring, and thanks for joining me on this explainer.